Hey everyone, Mr. Happy here, and welcome to Mondays with Mr. Happy, aka Mr. Happy Mondays, the weekly Q&A show where you ask me questions and I answer them. It's been an interesting week checking out Pilgrim's Traverse. I got my Floor 100 solo done. I got through Quantum 40. I did Arcveld. I did Arcveld Extreme. And hopefully before this comes out, I will have my Platinum finished in Final Fantasy Tactics. So it's been quite eventful. It's going to be quite the eventful week coming up as well. There's a new Dissidia mobile game being announced, which I put a video out on yesterday as of the release of this video, more like 2 hours ago for me as of the recording. And I have TwitchCon this week. If you're going to TwitchCon, be sure to find me, say hi, take a picture, do whatever. I don't do anything too fancy at TwitchCons. I'm just going to be largely social more than anything else. Yeah, it should hopefully be a good time. But I'm kind of short on time this morning. I'm not going to do the lightning round weekly Q&A, but I do want to get started. So thank you to Magic Spoon for sponsoring this video. I'm going to play that sponsor ad right before we start the first question. And of course, thanks to those of you on Patreon for supporting. Support of the channel is optional. I just release content, and if you enjoy it, you watch it, and that's how I make my living for the most part. But if you ever do want additional support, there's the Patreon. There are like members or super thanks and all that stuff. And if I see them, then I shout them out in the following weekly Q&As or whenever I feel it's applicable. Well, every time during the weekly Q&A, but I can do it elsewhere as well. But anyway, let's get started with the Q&A. Before we get started, the sponsor for this video is Magic Spoon. Yeah, they sponsor my videos a lot, and I'm super grateful for it. I mean, they make a high-protein cereal and snack products that anyone can enjoy for any diet, and that matters a lot to me, especially in the last few years. I get a box every month, and I use it to shake up my daily eating, though admittedly, sometimes I go a little overboard. I actually went through the treat bars so fast this month that the only footage I have of me eating one is on my podcast. Yeah, I just ate the rest of them before recording because I couldn't stop myself. Fortunately, I love a handful of their cereal just as much, so I saved some of my favorite flavor, the maple waffle flavor, to eat some of that for this ad. So if you'd like to try Magic Spoon while also supporting the channel, then click the link below to get some today. Build your own custom box of products with tons of available flavors. Definitely recommend the maple waffle if you're getting some cereal to match your daily needs. Best of all, use my link and discount code Mr. Happy to get $5 off your box. You can also buy it at your local grocery store or even on Amazon if that's more convenient for you. And if you don't like it, Magic Spoon has a 100% happiness guarantee. Let them know and they'll refund you, no questions asked. So click the link below or scan the QR code on the screen and use code Mr. Happy to get $5 off, or go to magicspoon.com/Mr. Happy to save $5 on your order. It even works in Canada and the UK. Thanks again to Magic Spoon for sponsoring, and on with the video. Oh my God, there's so much text on this first question. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Didn't even say hello. Is there a question in here? Okay, so it's 3 suggestions on how to fix housing types, having garden plots, having workshop subs. I'm of the opinion workshops and subs need to be deleted. I think they print far too much gil altogether, and I don't think that any amount, whether it be a single player or an FC, should be able to print that amount of gil, because I think it's just too incentivized across too many. Because then you run into the other problem. If you actually get a different problem where people who have a ton of gil will just make a ton of individual characters and buy out the houses even more easily, because they'll be incentivized to do it because of the sub or the garden plot. Without an infinite supply of houses, that becomes a problem unless you can give these same functions to apartments, and then that's asking for a whole nother, like ask. I think that honestly, like garden plots I think are fine, but I think that the whole workshops and subs need to go away. But yeah, no hello and no actual questions, so I think I'm gonna move on to the next one. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Hello, Mr. Happy. Hi, hope you're well. You too. I was thinking about the current state of healers and of course their past. I found myself thinking about good old Heavensward Scholar, Bane, Shadowflare, Cleric Stance, and play any other healers back then, so can't speak on them. Well, there were only 2 other ones, and one of them was really not strong until a few patches in. Remember them having a great time even with simple trash pulls, trying to maximize the DPS, applying and spreading dots, having to choose between SF or Sacred Soil, letting the tank get as low as possible for switching stance, not how long it would take. Is this rose-tinted nostalgic last, or is it genuinely fun? I think it's a mix of both. I think just something being nostalgic doesn't necessarily mean it was fun or unfun. They're like 2 completely unrelated things, because you could simply enjoy that level of pressure and that level of engagement. But what ends up happening is that one person's trash is another man's treasure, and unfortunately for a lot of people, that entire kind of shift of focus became trash for a lot of players. The majority of players who don't do this kind of thing effectively were chastised and constantly bullied throughout dungeons. Playstyles were if you think dungeon playstyle is forced now, the difference between doing big pulls and small pulls, back then it was a whole different dichotomy that came with it. So it was a much bigger problem. Now, I will say this, the way that DPS is such a huge focus for healers, especially being true nowadays, people do seem to want more engagement with that particular system. They don't need like a whole lot. But if you're not gonna make healing the primary focus of healers, like, yeah, that's their responsibility, but it's not what they're doing with most of their GCDs or even their OGCDs, then adding additional engagement kind of adds a layer back to it. So it's a matter of, honestly, it comes down to a matter of perspective, because I'd like the game to better incentivize like healing, like actually healing, as opposed to providing more damage tools. But if you provide more damage tools, you can actually leave the design largely the same as it is right now, and players can just press more buttons or be more engaged with what's already there at the current moment. I do think that some of that actually comes with, you mentioned, like, you do need to know like how to get, like, let the tank get low and whatnot, and your tank needs to know their cooldowns. Like, it's a little bit more collaborative. But for general experiences for the average player, that actually just creates a lot of problems. So it's one of those unsolvable MMO mysteries where you kind of just have to commit to what audience your content is meant for and design it around that audience, and then design other content around other audiences. But it comes with such a huge drawback in that when those players want to jump up to the next level of difficulty, there's actually nothing that they've learned that's really applicable to the point where they actually feel like they're ready for that content without learning while doing. How was healing? Healing was monstrously rough. Let's just say that if you go and watch the world videos, the world prog videos for things like Midas and Gordius, yeah, the healers can DPS sometimes, but boy, did the game really not want to let them do it. I think that's honestly the better approach than making it so that DPS tools are more the norm for our supports than the support skills are for our supports. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Howdy, Happy. Hi. Are there any Final Fantasy XI characters or plot elements you wish had gotten more development within the game? No. Very particular reason. I don't care specifically to get characters or plot elements from other games as core elements of Final Fantasy XIV. References are, when they're well done, are good. Like Crystal Tower is well done. There's plenty of character references, whatnot. Hi, Ivy. You looking all over the place? Don't meow at me. I put food in your bowl. I pet you. I played with you. What's going on? But no, I'm not like they should do more from 11 in this game. I'm like, no. Like, yeah, if they want to reference it, sure. But I don't want to just be like, hey, do this thing this other game did more in this completely different game. I don't know. It's just never been my thing. I'd rather use the context clues they decide to use than ask for more of the context clues in the first place, if that makes sense. We should get to spend more time with Roshfon from the Sandoria mission. He was central to the incident that brought the destruction to Thanasia. It doesn't even get a mention in CP. Oh, you're talking about within Final Fantasy XI. I'm so stupid. There's a lot of characters and lore in Final Fantasy XI that really don't get as much time. You actually mentioned one with Roshfon. Yeah, there's plenty of characters throughout the stories that do not get a whole lot of attention or time and could probably have used it. It was a common symptom of Final Fantasy XI where they kind of just did things, and then if they wanted to expand upon it later, they did. But they more often than not just kind of left a lot of strings that never were resolved. 14 did that a lot at first, but they've resolved a lot of those strings, and now there's very few that are left. And I do think we're actually working on a 1.0 string in the MSQ right now. But no, I think that, no, I can't think of any one in particular that I specifically wish we had more time with. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Good day to you, Haps. Hope you're doing all right. I'm doing all right. You doing all right? I'm doing all right. So the question is, would you ever like to see them reintroduce the hard variants of dungeons? I enjoy playing these dungeons, adding new lore. Yeah, specifically from a new lore perspective, I like it. Functionally, dungeons aren't really content designed for me. I almost never engage with them unless absolutely necessary. So they become kind of one-time tourist attractions for me, but I know how many people do like dungeons, and roulettes are part of their daily like play pattern. So if I could get a one-time experience that doesn't negatively impact my experience with the game, which let's be honest, it wouldn't, and people who are more engaged with it could have more of what they like. I mean, that's kind of what's been happening at the opposite side of with raiding for the last several expansions, is that there's been a lot more content that is very specifically focused on people like me. And I don't think that that's been a good design choice. I feel like there should have been a lot more stuff that was more generally accessible, because, you know, I can enjoy something, I can like something, but I'm not the person who is casually logging in and trying to do things all the time. And those players who are doing those things could use a little bit more incentive, a better roulette, more dungeons, more environments. Those types of things are valued more by the average player than they are by someone like me. I'll see a place looks nice and never go back. And other people will see a place looks nice and it gets them excited to go back. So I'd rather they get some of those resources than me. I'll be fine one way or the other. I'll always consume content as quick as it comes out. And, you know, then do whatever I'm going to do in my own time, you know, go and play a different game or grind something out that is unrelated to that thing, etc. So for the people who do want to log in every day super consistently, the hard mode dungeons returning would, I think, be a good thing, even if it doesn't in any way appeal to me. Like, you're never going to see me actually asking for it, but I'd be okay with it. Hashtag Mondays with Mrhappy. Hey, Haps. Hi, happy Monday. You too. Just curious what you think about the new Gargantua skin treasure maps. Your little group is feeling super defeated by the duty failed and psychedelic middle finger at the end of these maps. Started doing the old level 90 Ophiosaurus for loot and achievements. Are there any other lower tier maps you really enjoy? Suggest? So you're asking about the roulette wheel? I love the roulette wheel. I'm sorry, not the roulette, the slots. So you went back and did the roulette wheel. I mean, they all fail you. It's like you're ever guaranteed. They're all like a chance of failure or being kicked out. Or I don't really see the functional difference. But the Yan minigame I thought was a good... I think the Yan minigame in the Gargantua skins... Is Gargantua skin the one in Living Memory? Pretty sure it is. I think that they are a big step forward in regards to what they should do with these treasure dungeons. Treasure dungeons shouldn't just all be about every wave is kill a monster, blah, blah, blah. I prefer to see like stuff like that, like the mini game where you have to pick up the coins for the Yan, or, you know, maybe like more Mario Party-esque games that you have to play and succeed at, that, you know, you can, and more like wagering rewards and stuff. You know, I want to see more mini game-esque stuff come out of the treasure dungeons, because we have a billion pieces of content in the game where you fight stuff, but there's very few things where you get together with a group of players and kind of just party it out. You know what I mean? So having more like that, like the Yan mini game, I think would make treasure maps more exciting in general than the treasure maps currently are now. Hashtag Mondays with Mrhappy. Hey, Haps, hope your day is going well. It is, thank you. Still early for me. It's only 9 a.m., but still. Maybe more of a talking point than a question. I was wondering, what about your thoughts about WoW's announcement that they're going in the future, they'll be disabling the use of external combat mods. It's both good and bad. They're doing it because they're adding them internally. So it's like, you know, I think it's a long overdue. Before even reading the rest of your point, one of the things I hate most about World of Warcraft is the add-on culture around it. I hate how engaged it is with the gameplay. So this not having it, I think, is better. I don't like it. And the big thing is and the big reason they're doing this is that top tier guilds are so much more now than just good players. They need to hire programmers to make add-ons. They need to like do carries and gold farms on multiple different characters for months in advance. Like, they're renting out physical spaces, which that part I think is cool. But it's so far beyond what most players will actually see or experience with the game that it becomes such a forward-facing part, and what I like to call the source of kind of trickle-down expectation or trickle-down feature bloat, in a sense, where players see the top tier guilds doing that, and even though players are not in those top tier guilds, they think that that's the only way to do it, and it becomes a kind of arms race within the community itself, where if you're not using every single add-on that gives you every single advantage, even if you're like capable of doing it, then you're griefing. And if you are not doing exactly what they're doing, then you're griefing. This happens in 14 to some capacity, but not nearly as much, because our general balance and game demeanor are far more level than World of Warcraft's are. But I think that it's never been a healthy thing for WoW's dev team to be up against what those top tier guilds are doing and effectively being forced to design their on-release content around that. I mean, I just think it's such an unhealthy thing development-wise to look at a top-tier team, look at their resource, go, okay, we have to make a fight that competes with that. And then they'll like, oh, you know, like after the first 100 groups clear it, we'll nerf it, and then we'll nerf it again. And it's like, okay, but why couldn't you just make it like good and clearable by everyone in the first place? And a lot of that comes down to add-ons because there's just such a huge discrepancy in resources between the different teams, between what a top tier, a top 5 team, and even like a 6th or 10th team is really, really capable of. So with combat mods, it's just going to be a matter of taking feedback and incorporating them into the game. And I hope that it ends up being a positive for them, or that at least everyone can see it as the positive that I think it very well should be considered. I think its stance on modding in the raid design space has any influence on them. I don't think so. I think this is something that they've contemplated and fought against for a long time. They haven't wanted it for a long time. I know it's easy to point at 14, be like, oh, they finally saw what 14 was. But you've seen a different kind of problem with 14 with that, and that while the game stance is that the players are also still super free to do whatever they want to do. And it's caused a huge ruckus whenever there's like, you know, a world race and someone's discovered using it and using, well, anything at all. And it creates kind of like a separate problem where now you've got the witch hunty style, you know, experiences whenever anything like that happens. So I don't think 14 has any impact. I think they've wanted to do something about mods in 14 and in WoW for a very long time. And while they are incorporating some of the important ones into the game, which I think is also a good idea, I hope that it no longer causes them to feel like they have to design around the existence of those things. And hopefully it makes for a better balance of encounters in the long run. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Howdy, Haps. Hi, hope you're having a great Saturday, Sunday today. The big combat changes anticipated for 8.0 got me thinking, what expansion release, in your opinion, gave the greatest and least degree of combat changes? This could include the fight design changes, if you would like. Trying to place the 8.0 changes on the spectrum. I think Endwalker is probably the smallest amount of changes. I think Shadowbringers was pretty massive over Stormblood. And then Endwalker was largely derivative of Shadowbringers. I think, in all honesty, Dawntrail is still largely derivative as well, but we've seen a lot more quality of life in Dawntrail. At least I think overall. Yeah, and Dawntrail's actual encounter design has definitely been far more interesting. Endwalker basically took what everyone was already doing in Shadowbringers and just made it way easier to do. So it actually was a step down, I think most people would agree, in combat design. But I think it also still is the least amount of change from expansion to expansion. So definitely Endwalker being the lowest. And I think Shadowbringers probably being the highest. It's not Shadowbringers being the highest. Honestly, it's Stormblood. It's one of the two. Because Stormblood getting rid of TP... but it still had aggro changes. Yeah, I mean, I gotta remember, Shadowbringers got rid of, like, you know, tanks needing to really focus on aggro, and finally got rid of, like, the old version of roll. There was a lot that changed. Yeah, I think Shadowbringers changed more, but Stormblood was a more well-respected amount of large-scale change. I think that might be the better way to put it. PS, use code HAPPY for a 10% discount on your relic weapon materials. I wish I had a discount code for those, let me tell you. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Yo, hope your week has been going well. It has. I was wondering if anyone asked the devs about a separate inventory bait for fishing. Yeah, it's been asked before, and it's probably not happening. Developing anything inventory related is incredibly tough, and it's one of those things like, you know, maybe one day we'll do it, but like the odds of it ever happening is just, you know, super, super low. So yeah, I don't think so. I think that rehauling anything inventory related, especially when the fishing bait is already used as an inventory item, if anything, they would have to make it a currency, and then there's so many different ones that's kind of its own struggle as well. So I don't expect to see anything solution wise to fishing bait and tackle being in a separate inventory. I just don't think it's going to happen. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Hello, Mr. Happy. Hi, hope you're doing well. I am, thank you. Constantly cleaning out link shells, lots of hunting. I was wondering what's with not being able to see link shell members' last login. I wish I had an answer, dude. This is what I mean. I made a video at the start of Dawntrail, criticizing the game's social features as a whole, talking about how there's different features across different social functions in Final Fantasy XIV that would be useful in any or all of them, but are basically just spread out for what seems like no good reason. Where they could just have less different types of social features and instead combine some of these features into each other to make sure that there's less feature bloat and a better overall functioning, set of social functions. So the answer I have for you is they focused too much on newer stuff and just didn't put the correct technology into the old stuff. And I hope that one day they can course correct on that, because it's really dissuading from people using the game's built-in social functions. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Hi, Haps. Hi. I recently started an all-character, but only at Garuda and Realm Reborn. I'm already level 55. That is definitely on a preferred world. What I'd like to see is a level cap system to stop the over-leveling so I get the same feeling of when I played the game the first time around. That will literally never happen. So, two things. One, you are level capped in content. And the open world is not going to be a problem for you ever. You're always going to be item level capped and level capped within an instance. But unless you are soloing that instance, like Wrath style, you're never going to get something similar. And even that's obviously not going to be that similar, because it's one person versus four. Because the other three players are still, they are also going to be level capped and item level capped like you are, and you are going to mow through them all the same. Like, it wouldn't accomplish functionally anything other than making overworld mobs slightly stronger to you. Like, maybe you'd be slightly more concerned about an overworld mob. But literally, when you queue into Garuda, you aren't a level 55. Ivy, stop getting into a fight with... Hey, are you getting into a fight with Cinnamon under the door? Stop it, Ivy. You are level capped when you go into Garuda. You know that, right? You're not level 55 while you're doing Garuda. You are level capped at Garuda's, whatever Garuda's level cap actually is, which I think is 47, something like that. So it's there. So I'm not even 100% sure. If you're just asking to stop gaining experience, it just wouldn't change anything other than potentially some engagement with the overworld. So I don't even not really understand what you're asking for in the first place, because with you'd have to undo job changes, undo potency. Like, it's the only way. You'd have to undo every change that's happened since Garuda and A Realm Reborn came out to actually equal that. It wouldn't, level capping wouldn't in any way accomplish what you seem to think it would. I still don't even understand what you actually mean. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Good morning, Mr. Happy. Good morning. There was a cloud server test during Endwalker. Was any further news on a potential US East Coast server using the cloud? I'm a bit confused on what the test was for and if anything will come of it. There was never any promise or consideration for what they would be used for, if anything. The main reason why cloud technology is useful is very specifically because it can be expanded upon and shrunk as needed very dynamically. So if anything, they would just be replacing the current servers with cloud servers and not opening up a brand new US East server. Where they hosted the cloud server was US East when they did the test. But they never made any promises about what it would be used for. They basically just said, hey, we need to see if this is something that we even want to consider in the future. And, that's all the test was for. So unless they have come to a conclusion that they will use it, you'll probably never hear about it again. If they decided that they're not going to, then, it'll fade into obscurity, or we'll ask this question on occasion and that'll be the end of it. But otherwise, no, there's been no indication of anything at all. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Hello. Hi. Hope you're doing well. You too. I was listening to the last day of the realm, and during it you mentioned passing, unless I misheard, that we only get one Criterion in Dawntrail. That was correct. They did tell us that at the start of Dawntrail as well. So if you that loved Criterion and Endwalker as my favorite content, the main reason I stayed subscribed for as long as I did, I was hoping to resubscribe to 14 after all three were added. It was true there was only be one. They told us there would only be one before Dawntrail even came out. When they were announcing the features for Dawntrail, they said new variant dungeon, singular. And several times throughout this expansion, they have said there would be one. So we've known for probably about a year and a half now there would only be one. Some people still hoped that maybe we would get one in like 0.2 and then find out there was another one, but the language has always suggested there would just be one. Now, I will give you this. They did also say new ultimate encounter in their initial unveiling, but they immediately stated that even though it said encounter, they were not saying they were only doing one, but they only made that statement specifically for ultimate because they knew that people who saw ultimate and only saw one were going to go, "Rrr." But we also know that for variant in 7.4, they are doing something more quantum-esque, like what they just did with the final verse at the end of the Pilgrim's Traverse Deep dungeon. We don't know what that means. We don't know what that actually ends up looking like, but we know there will be some variable difficulty mode coming to the next variant dungeon, and they're probably more focused on incorporating that technology for that content than trying to have multiple of them, especially given what was the failure of the Criterion content before. The reward structure just not being good in any capacity, really dissuading people from hopping in. There was nothing of interest that came from it at all, and I'm hoping that isn't the problem for the next one, but I think they're really just focused on getting that variable difficulty functioning. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Hey, Happy. Hi. Do you happen to know why the console version of the games don't have the character and object quantity setting that the PC version of the game does? Playing on Xbox, it's my PC broke and the FPS gets really rough in crowded areas like Limsa or Hunt Trains. I have no idea. I couldn't tell you why it's not there or that it's not there or anything. I've never really the only time I've logged into a console version was to get my PlayStation Platinum trophies for 4 and 5, and I barely looked at the settings. So I couldn't in any way tell you, and I would consider that fair question and feedback. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Hey, Happy. Hi. I was wondering, has there ever been a mechanic which requires healers to heal the enemy or adds? Yes. Shinryu. Shinryu Extreme has a phase where 4 dragon heads appear and they have to be healed to full. And that is literally the only time. And I don't know why they've never done anything like that since. For the most part, the only other thing they do is they give everyone like a doom until they're healed to full. But I don't know why they don't just do what they do with Shinryu again somewhere else. I mean, it's not a terrible idea. You know, if you want to get the healers engaged and make them doing a mechanic, that's a way to do it. So maybe one day. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Hey, Happy. Short question. Hi. What's your favorite ultimate weapon for Monk and Bard based on aesthetic alone? Monk's tough. I really like the Ultima Sphere Eyes. But I really like my Omega Fist. I'm going to go with my Omega Fist, but the Ultima Sphere Eyes are up there. Bard? Might be the Zodiac weapon. That's tough. I actually really like a lot of different Bard weapons. I actually really like the current one that we're getting now. I'd have to look at them in game and really remember what they all... I have them. I have every relic in the game other than the latest ones. So I just have to look at them. Tag on YouTube has been WoW for some reason. Yeah, it just auto tags a game. I don't know why it always auto tags WoW, but it just does. So I mean, I could undo the tag, and I guess maybe I should. But yeah, it is what it is. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hey, hi. Just commenting on something you said about console versus PC players. Recently moved to PC from console and wanted to add some comments. One is that Discord has integration, at least with PS5, which actually makes voice chatting easy. The big problem I ran into is raid plans. It's possible to open raid plans on console without adding without an additional phone and or laptop PC. Made raiding really annoying. So that's one of the main reasons why they're trying to do the in-game raid plan feature, which is why its delay has been incredibly frustrating for a lot of people. Now, PC players want it out as well. It's not like it's only console players that want it. We would all prefer to have something in the game itself as opposed to having to go externally in order to find some information on it. That being said, that is one of the main draws, is definitely for console players to have a built-in raid plan. And then on top of that, yeah, and then mods and damage meters and all that stuff as well. Yeah, it's brutal. But the PS5 has it, but I don't know... I guess I don't know how fluidly it functions while you're trying to actually play. We have a lot more control over the app on PC as well. So, yeah, you're right. That's probably not too much of a function or too much of a problem. I think we're down to the last 2 questions here. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Hello, Haps. Hello. It's kind of a dumb question. Well, that's interesting. I've never gone. Okay. When you get a ticket to FanFest... I've never gone without any context. Really confused my brain for a second. When you get a ticket to FanFest, do you get a +1 ticket? No, you need to buy 2 tickets. You do not just get a free +1 ever. I don't think there's a convention on this planet that just hands you a +1 to attendance when they made you pay to initially be there in the first place. Like, that'd be like if a movie theater you bought, you and your significant other were going. And you bought a ticket and just said, oh yeah, now that'll just come with a +1. That would never happen. Like, that happens at like parties, at conventions. Like, they'll be like, oh, do you need a +1 for this? But not for a full-blown, several $100 convention ticket. That doesn't happen. And I think this is the last question for this week. Hashtag Mondays with Mr. Happy. Hello, Happy. Hello. Happy, nice episode number 569. Nice. Given the nice nature of this Q&A, what's one really nice thing you can't help but think nice when you think of Dawntrail? Have a nice day. Nice. What's nice is the encounter design. Encounter design's been top-notch in Dawntrail. We haven't had this well-designed encounters in quite some time. And honestly, if they've learned great lessons. I still think they've had some slip ups. Overestimating the chaotic difficulty was definitely a big one. One difficulty for Fort Tower, even though I don't think Fort Tower is that hard, it still was. It's clearly shown that that design doesn't work. But the actual fights and the way that they are constructed and what they ask of the player is far more engaging than previous expansions have been. So that's definitely the number one nice thing about Dawntrail. Also, the sheer number of like mounts and minions and rewards and stuff has been really high. Not in terms of actual gear progression, just in terms of stuff. Just stuff everywhere. It's been insane. So those would be the two nice things I would say about Dawntrail above all else. But with that, that is going to be a wrap for this week's episode of Mondays with Mr. Happy. Be sure to ask your questions in the comment section of the video below. Next week, they probably won't be out on Monday unless I record them Sunday night. I'll be at TwitchCon and I fly back. Actually, I fly back on Monday, I think. Not even, yeah, because Sunday is still a day. Yeah, I won't be flying back. So next week's Q&A won't be on Monday. I'll probably record it on Monday and then release it on Tuesday or something in that regard. But yeah, just expect a late Q&A next week, so you have extra time to ask some questions. Thanks to Magic Spoon for sponsoring. Thanks to the patrons for supporting. And I will see you all in the next one. Until then, take care.